They say trust takes a lifetime to build, but only a single second to shatter into a million pieces. For me, that second happened at exactly 11 o'clock on a cold Tuesday night. I was sitting in my car, staring at the glowing digital clock on my dashboard, feeling my heart pound against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely keep them on the steering wheel. Just down the street, the lights inside my mother-in-law's house were brightly lit, casting long, eerie shadows across the front lawn. To anyone passing by, it looked like a peaceful family gathering. But I knew the ugly truth. Inside that house, the people I called family were treating my 8-year-old daughter like a product. They were exploiting her tears, carving away her dignity, and selling her out for internet clout. And they thought I would never find out. But they miscalculated. They thought because I was usually quiet, because I always chose peace over conflict, that I would just sit back and take it. They forgot that a mother's silence is not weakness. It is preparation. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, a cold, calm certainty washed over me. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. By the time the clock struck 12, I was going to shut their entire world down. To understand how a mother ends up planning a midnight takedown of her own family, you have to understand who these people really were. My husband, David, and I had been married for 10 years. David was a good man, but he had one major flaw. He could never see the malice in his own mother, Eleanor, or his younger sister, Chloe. To David, Eleanor was just an overbearing, eccentric matriarch who loved her family a little too loudly. To him, Chloe was just a struggling, ambitious young woman trying to make a name for herself in the digital world. Chloe was an aspiring social media influencer. She spent her days filming every mundane detail of her life, chasing likes, views, and validation from complete strangers. But her channel was failing. She was desperate. And as I would soon learn, a desperate person with a smartphone is a very dangerous thing. My daughter Lily was 8 years old. She was a gentle, sensitive soul who loved drawing and spent months growing out her beautiful, thick, waist-length curly hair. It was her pride and joy. Every morning, we had a little ritual where I would gently brush it out, and she would tell me about her dreams. It was our bonding time. Eleanor and Chloe always dropped hints about how Lily's hair would look so much trendier if it were chopped into a modern bob. I always politely but firmly said no. Lily loved her hair, and as her mother, my job was to protect her choices. But Eleanor and Chloe didn't respect boundaries. To them, boundaries were just obstacles to be bypassed. The trouble started on a Tuesday afternoon when Eleanor called me, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. She asked if Lily could spend the evening at her house. She claimed she missed her granddaughter and wanted to bake cookies with her. David encouraged it, smiling as he told me how wonderful it was that his mother wanted to build memories with Lily. I felt a strange twist in my stomach, an instinctual warning flare, but I brushed it down. I told myself I was being paranoid. I kissed Lily goodbye, told her I loved her, and watched her walk into Eleanor's house. That was my biggest mistake. A few hours later, around 9 in the evening, I felt an overwhelming sense of unease. I called Eleanor to check in, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I called Chloe. Voicemail. I called David, who was at a work dinner, and he told me to relax, that they were probably just having fun and didn't hear their phones. But a mother's intuition doesn't sleep. I decided to open social media, a rare move for me, just to see if Chloe had posted anything. What I saw made the blood in my veins turn to absolute ice. Chloe had posted a live stream countdown on her page with a flashy, dramatic thumbnail. The caption read, "Shocking transformation. Giving my niece a secret extreme makeover, while her strict mom sleeps. You won't believe her reaction." My breath caught in my throat. I clicked on the preview and my heart shattered. There was my sweet, gentle Lily, sitting in a chair in Eleanor's kitchen. She looked terrified. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, and her small hands were gripping the edges of the chair. Eleanor was standing behind her, holding her shoulders down so she couldn't move, whispering things into her ear to keep her still. And Chloe was standing in front of her, holding a pair of heavy kitchen shears, smiling brightly at the camera, completely ignoring Lily's distress. "Don't worry, guys," Chloe chirped to her live audience. She's just crying because she's excited. This is going to go totally viral. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to see the final reveal at midnight. I stared at the screen, paralyzed by absolute shock and blinding rage. They were mocking my child. They were ignoring her tears, holding her down, and cutting her beautiful hair against her will, all to feed an online audience of strangers. They were trading my daughter's emotional safety for views and digital pennies. I didn't yell. I didn't burst into tears. A strange, terrifying calm came over me. The anger inside me didn't burn hot. It turned into a freezing, razor-sharp focus. I grabbed my car keys, walked out the front door, and got into my car. As I drove down the empty streets toward Eleanor's house, I checked the countdown timer on Chloe's stream. I had exactly 1 hour before the final video went live. 1 hour to protect my child, expose their cruelty, and ensure they would never, ever use my family for clout again. I pulled up to the curb, keeping my headlights off. I sat there in the dark, watching the house. I knew that if I just ran inside screaming, they would twist the narrative. Chloe would film my angry reaction, edit it to make me look like a crazy, unhinged villain, and use that for even more views. They would turn my genuine grief into part of their twisted show. No, I couldn't just react. I had to outsmart them. I had to use their own weapons against them. I looked at my phone. 11:15. The trap was set, but they didn't know that I held the keys to it. I took a deep breath, stepped out of the car, and walked toward the front door, my mind clicking through a plan that would change everything by midnight. To understand why this betrayal cut so deeply, you have to understand the history I had with Eleanor and Chloe. When David and I first got engaged, Eleanor made it very clear that I was not the woman she had envisioned for her son. I came from a modest background, valued privacy, and preferred a quiet life. Eleanor, on the other hand, was obsessed with appearance. She lived for the envy of her neighbors and the approval of her social circle. Everything in her life had to look perfect, expensive, and enviable. When Chloe decided to become a full-time internet personality, Eleanor didn't discourage her. She became her biggest enabler. They turned their entire lives into a stage. Dinners weren't for eating, they were for photographing. Family gatherings weren't for catching up. They were background sets for Chloe's vlogs. I hated it. I hated it. I didn't want my life displayed on the internet for thousands of strangers to critique. And more importantly, I didn't want Lily near it. When Lily was born, I drew a hard line in the sand. I told David, Eleanor, and Chloe that Lily's face was never to be posted online. No videos, no photos, no public updates. David agreed with me, understanding the safety risks. Eleanor and Chloe outwardly nodded and smiled, but I could see the resentment simmering beneath their eyes. To them, a cute baby was a goldmine of engagement. They saw my boundaries not as protection for a child, but as an insult to their lifestyle. Over the years, Chloe's channel struggled. The internet is a crowded place, and her shallow fashion tips and staged daily routines weren't pulling in the numbers she needed to secure lucrative brand deals. She was losing followers, and Eleanor was growing embarrassed. Their conversations became increasingly desperate. Every time we visited, Chloe would complain about the algorithm and how she needed a viral breakout concept to save her career. I remember a dinner just 3 weeks before the haircutting incident. Chloe was staring at Lily, who was playing quietly with her dolls in the corner. Lily's long, cascading curls caught the light, and Chloe's eyes narrowed with a predatory gleam. You know, Chloe had said, twirling a fork around her finger, family transformation videos are pulling millions of views right now. People love seeing little girls get dramatic makeovers. Lily has so much hair. If we did a toddler-to-teen style transformation on her, my channel would double overnight. I didn't hesitate. No, Chloe. We've talked about this. Lily loves her hair, and she is not going to be content for your channel. End of discussion. Chloe rolled her eyes and sighed dramatically, while Eleanor chimed in. Oh, come on, Sarah. Don't be so old-fashioned. It's just a haircut. It grows back. Why can't you support your sister-in-law's business? Don't you want to see this family succeed? Not at the expense of my daughter's comfort, I replied firmly. David, trying to keep the peace as usual, intervened. Mom, Chloe, let it go. Sarah said no, and I back her up. Let's talk about something else. That night, I thought the matter was settled. I truly believed that despite their obsession with fame, they would respect a direct boundary from Lily's parents. I didn't realize that to people blinded by the desire for internet fame, boundaries are just challenges waiting to be broken. They didn't see Lily as a niece or a granddaughter with feelings. They saw her as a prop that could buy them the relevance they so desperately craved. And so they waited. They waited for a moment when David was occupied with his stressful corporate dinners, and when I was exhausted from a long week at work. They concocted the sweet story of baking cookies to lower my guard. They used the purest form of trust, a grandmother's love, as a Trojan horse to gain access to my daughter. As I stood on the porch of Eleanor's house at 11:20 on that fateful night, the memories of their passive-aggressive comments and dismissed boundaries flashed through my mind. They thought they were geniuses. They had timed the haircut and the live stream so that the final reveal would air right at midnight, capitalizing on late-night internet traffic. Khloe had even set up a paid membership tier on her channel, promising exclusive access to the behind-the-scenes footage of the makeover. They were literally charging people money to watch my daughter cry. I reached out and gently turned the doorknob. To my surprise, it was unlocked. They were so engrossed in their production, so confident that they were completely safe, that they hadn't even locked the front door. I stepped into the dim entryway. The house was quiet, except for the bright, loud voices coming from the kitchen down the hall. I crept forward, keeping my movements silent. The smell of freshly baked cookies filled the air, a sick, sweet cover-up for the emotional ambush happening just a few feet away. I peered around the kitchen doorframe. The scene was even worse in person than it was on the small screen of my phone. The kitchen had been transformed into a makeshift studio. 2 large ring lights blasted blinding white light into the center of the room. Khloe's phone was mounted on a tripod, glowing with a live chat feed that was scrolling so fast it was a blur of text. In the center of the lights sat Lily. A massive black trash bag had been cut open and draped over her shoulders like a cape. On the floor around her lay long, beautiful clumps of her curly hair, discarded like garbage. Khloe was holding a lock of Lily's remaining hair, gesturing wildly to the camera, while Eleanor held Lily's chin up, forcing her to look into the lens. "Smile for the camera, sweetie," Eleanor whispered, her voice sharp and commanding, completely devoid of grandmotherly warmth. "Tell everyone how much you love your new look. Don't be a spoiled sport." Lily's shoulders shook with silent, suppressed sobs. She was trying so hard to be brave, trying so hard not to upset her grandmother, but tears were streaming down her face, leaving tracks through the light dust of flour on her cheeks. My hands clenched into fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. The urge to storm in, throw the ring lights across the room, and scream at them until my throat was raw was almost overwhelming. But I stopped myself. If I did that, Khloe would hit record, capture my explosion, and use it as part of her viral narrative. She would edit it to make me look like the unstable parent blocking a fun family makeover. I would become the content. No. I needed to destroy the narrative entirely. I needed to take away the one thing they valued more than life itself. Their audience, their reputation, and their digital footprint. I quietly stepped back into the shadows of the hallway, retrieved my phone, and began executing a plan that would take them completely by surprise. Standing in the shadows of Eleanor's hallway, I looked at my phone screen. The time was 11:30. 30 minutes until Khloe's scheduled midnight reveal video went live to her entire subscriber base. The live chat on her preview page was buzzing with anticipation. Strangers from all over the world were commenting, saying things like, "Can't wait to see the makeover," and "Wow, her mom must be so cool to allow this." They had no idea they were about to witness an act of emotional cruelty packaged as wholesome entertainment. I knew that to defeat an internet influencer, you have to cut off their oxygen. And an influencer's oxygen is their platform and their sponsors. Over the last few months, Khloe had finally managed to land 2 mid-sized brand sponsorships, a trendy online clothing boutique and a regional hair care company. These brands paid her a monthly fee to feature their products in her videos. They were her ticket to the big leagues, the foundation of her dream career. I also knew the owner of that clothing boutique. Her name was Clara, and her daughter went to the same school as Lily. Clara was a fierce advocate for children's safety and anti-bullying campaigns. If she found out her brand's money was funding the exploitation of an 8-year-old child, she wouldn't just cancel the contract. She would make sure Khloe was blacklisted from every local corporate sponsor in the state. I quietly moved further down the hall into Eleanor's home office, closing the door behind me to muffle the sound of my voice. I called Clara. Because it was late, it took 3 rings before she answered, her voice thick with sleep. Sarah? Is everything okay? It's nearly midnight, Clara said, sounding confused. Clara, I am so sorry to call you this late, I whispered, keeping my tone steady but laced with controlled urgency. But I need you to open your social media right now. Your brand is currently tagged as the primary sponsor for Khloe's upcoming midnight video. Yes, the extreme makeover video. She told us it was a fun, consensual family surprise for her niece. Why? What's wrong? Clara, she is filming my daughter Lily. They brought her here under the pretense of baking cookies. They are holding her down, cutting off her waist-length hair against her will, and forcing her to cry on camera for views. Lily is terrified. I am standing in their house right now watching it happen. There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. I could hear the rustle of sheets as Clara sat up in bed, followed by the faint sound of typing. A minute passed. When Clara spoke again, the sleepiness was entirely gone from her voice. It was replaced by pure, professional fury. Oh my God, Clara breathed. I am looking at the live preview chat right now. Khloe just commented that the mom is going to freak out, but it's worth it for the views. Sarah, this is disgusting. This violates every single morality clause in our contract. We do not support child exploitation or non-consensual content. I know, I said. I'm not asking you to make a public scene right now. I am asking you to send an official email rescinding your sponsorship effective immediately and copy her multi-channel network. Can you do that before midnight? Consider it done, Clara said, her voice sharp as steel. And Sarah? Pull the plug on them. After hanging up with Clara, I didn't stop there. I knew that Khloe used a shared family cloud account for her video backups, a technical detail David had set up for her a year ago to help her store her massive video files. Because David had created the account using our shared household premium subscription, I had the administrator login credentials on my phone. I logged into the cloud network. Sure enough, there was a folder titled Lily Makeover Raw Footage. Khloe had been uploading the high-definition, unedited video clips from her camera directly to the cloud in real time, so she could quickly edit the final cut on her laptop. I opened the files. The unedited footage was heartbreaking. It showed Khloe and Eleanor actively scheming before Lily even arrived. In one clip, Khloe looked directly at the camera and said, "If she cries, that's actually better." Emotional thumbnails get 40% higher CTR. Just make sure she doesn't run away from the chair. They had documented their own malice. They had recorded the evidence of their premeditated plot to exploit my daughter, thinking no one would ever see the raw, unedited footage. They thought only the shiny, happy, heavily edited version would ever make it to the public. With a few taps on my screen, I downloaded the raw footage directly to my personal hard drive. Then, I did something that would ensure Khloe's midnight launch would be an absolute disaster. I didn't delete the files from her laptop yet. I wanted her to think everything was fine until the very last second. Instead, I changed the sharing permissions of her Livestream link. I linked the public preview description box directly to a public folder containing the raw, unedited clips of them admitting they wanted Lily to cry for views. I was turning her own viral launch into a public exposure campaign. The clock on the wall now read 11:45. 15 minutes left. I could hear Khloe's voice growing more excited from the kitchen. Okay guys, we are 15 minutes away from the big reveal. The final snips are done, and we are just styling it now. Make sure to share this stream link right now. Let's get the viewer count up to 10,000. I walked out of the office and stood at the end of the hallway, watching them. Eleanor was holding up a mirror to Lily's face. Lily looked at her reflection and immediately covered her face with her small hands, her shoulders shaking violently as she wept. Her beautiful, long curls were entirely gone, replaced by a jagged, uneven, poorly cut short style that looked like a punishment rather than a makeover. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, Lily," Eleanor snapped, pulling Lily's hands away from her face. It looks incredibly chic. You look like a little model. Stop crying, you're ruining the makeup Chloe put on you. My heart broke into pieces for my little girl. But my mind remained completely frozen in a state of absolute, calculated resolve. The storm had gathered, and the lightning was about to strike. They thought midnight was going to be the moment of their greatest digital victory. They had no idea it was going to be the hour of their total undoing. 11:50. 10 minutes remaining. The air in the house felt heavy, charged with a strange electricity. I took a deep, steadying breath, smoothed down my jacket, and walked out of the shadows of the hallway straight into the bright, blinding glare of the kitchen ring lights. The moment my shoes clicked against the tile floor, the atmosphere in the room froze. Eleanor's head snapped up, her eyes widening in sudden, sharp panic. Chloe froze mid-sentence, a heavy pair of styling scissors hovering in the air just inches from Lily's head. "Sarah," Eleanor gasped, her voice instantly shifting back into its artificial, high-pitched sweetness. What are you doing here? We thought you were fast asleep at home." Lily looked up at the sound of my voice. When her tear-filled eyes met mine, a small, choked sob escaped her lips. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice trembling with pure heartbreak. "I told them no. I told them you said no, but they wouldn't listen." Hearing my daughter's broken voice was like a physical blow to my chest. But I kept my face completely expressionless. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I walked directly past Eleanor and Chloe, completely ignoring them, and knelt down in front of Lily's chair. I gently unclipped the black trash bag from her shoulders and brushed a stray, jagged lock of hair from her wet cheek. "I know, baby," I said softly, my voice calm and steady. "Mommy is here now. You are completely safe. Go grab your jacket and your backpack from the hallway. Wait for me in the car. It's unlocked." Lily didn't hesitate. She scrambled out of the chair, her small feet flying across the tile floor, and disappeared down the hallway. The moment the front door clicked shut behind Lily, the mask fell off Eleanor's face. She stepped forward, her expression hardening into a look of pure, aristocratic arrogance. "Sarah, how dare you storm into my house and ruin this?" Eleanor hissed, her voice dropping into a venomous whisper. "Do you have any idea how much work we have put into this evening? Chloe's live stream goes live in exactly 8 minutes. We have thousands of people waiting." Chloe, recovering from her initial shock, quickly adjusted her phone camera, trying to angle it toward me. I could see the desperate gleam in her eyes. She wanted to capture my reaction. She wanted the dramatic confrontation on camera. "Yeah, Sarah, seriously," Chloe chimed in, trying to sound confident for her digital audience. "You're overreacting. It's just hair. We're doing this for the family. This video is sponsored. We are going to make thousands of dollars off this launch, and it's going to put my channel on the map. You're ruining a major business opportunity." I looked at Chloe, then at Eleanor. I looked at the ring lights, the expensive camera equipment, and the piles of my daughter's beautiful hair scattered across the floor like worthless trash. A cold smile touched my lips. "A business opportunity?" I asked softly. "Yes." Eleanor snapped. "A business opportunity that you are too small-minded to understand. This family needs this success. Chloe needs this clout. Lily's hair will grow back, but this algorithm momentum won't wait. You need to sit down, let Chloe finish the closing remarks for the video, and stop being an entitled, dramatic brat." I didn't lose my temper. I didn't step into their trap. I calmly reached out, took Chloe's mounted smartphone by the tripod stand, and turned it around so the lens was facing away from me and directly toward the wall. "Hey, don't touch my equipment." Chloe shrieked, lunging forward to grab the tripod back. "You should check your phone, Chloe," I said, stepping back and folding my arms. "You too, Eleanor. You both might want to look closely at your digital empire right now." Chloe frowned, her brow furrowing with sudden suspicion. She pulled her phone off the tripod and stared at the screen. At that exact moment, a loud, sharp notification chime echoed through the quiet kitchen. Then another. And another. The time was 11:55. 5 minutes until midnight. What is this?" Chloe whispered, her face suddenly losing all its color. Her fingers began scrolling frantically through her screen. No, this can't be right." "What's wrong, Chloe?" Eleanor asked, her voice tinged with a sudden, sharp edge of anxiety. What does it say? My primary sponsor, Chloe stuttered, her voice shaking violently. Clara's Boutique. They just sent an official email. They are pulling their sponsorship effective immediately. They've canceled the contract for breach of the morality clause. They copied the multi-channel network. Sarah, what did you do? I didn't do anything, Chloe, I replied calmly. You did. You recorded yourselves planning to exploit an 8-year-old child for views. You tagged your sponsors in the preview. I simply ensured that the person paying your bills saw exactly who they were getting into bed with. You ruined it. Eleanor screamed, stepping into my face, her eyes wild with rage. You jealous, vindictive little girl. You just destroyed your sister-in-law's career over a stupid haircut. Oh, Eleanor, I said, looking her dead in the eye, my voice freezing cold. I haven't even started yet. Look at the clock. It's almost midnight. Chloe let out a literal gasp of pure horror as she stared at her laptop screen, which was open on the kitchen counter. Mom, look at the live stream preview page. Look at the description box. Look at the live chat. Eleanor rushed over to the counter, bending over the laptop. The live chat, which had been filled with eager anticipation just minutes ago, had completely transformed. It was scrolling at a blinding speed, but the comments were no longer supportive. They were filled with words like disgusting, monsters reported, and child abuse. What is happening? Eleanor yelled, her voice cracking with panic. Why are they saying these things? Because I said, walking toward the kitchen exit, when Chloe uploaded her raw footage to the shared family cloud. She forgot that I am the administrator of that account. I took the unedited clips. The ones where you both admitted you wanted Lily to cry because it was better for your click-through rate. And I linked them directly to the video's public description box. Your audience isn't waiting for a cute makeover anymore, Eleanor. They are currently watching the raw truth of how you treat your own granddaughter. Chloe's laptop began chiming continuously as notifications flooded in. Her subscriber count was actively dropping in real time, numbers falling by the hundreds every single second. Her channel was experiencing a digital implosion. They stood there, frozen in the bright glare of their own ring lights, caught in the absolute ruin of their own creation. The very tool they used to exploit my daughter had turned into a weapon that was completely dismantling their names, their reputation, and their future. I checked my watch. 11:58. 2 minutes left. The trap had closed, and there was absolutely nothing they could do to stop it. The kitchen was dead silent, save for the frantic, rapid tapping of Chloe's fingernails against her laptop keyboard. She was trying desperately to delete the link, to pull the video down, to private her channel. Anything to stop the bleeding. But the internet is a fast-moving river. Once a piece of damning information is released to thousands of live viewers, it cannot be recalled. People were already screen recording the raw footage. The link was being shared across forums. The narrative was completely out of her hands. It's not deleting, Chloe cried, tears of genuine panic finally spilling over her heavily made-up eyelashes. The site is glitching. There are too many people reporting the stream at the same time. Mom, my channel is locked out for review. Eleanor stared at the screen, her face a mask of utter, unadulterated shock. For a woman who lived and breathed for the social approval of her peers, this was a fate worse than death. Her name was attached to this channel. Her kitchen was the background. Her face was in the unedited clips, caught red-handed ordering her granddaughter to stop crying and look at the camera. Sarah, please, Eleanor whispered, her voice completely losing its arrogant edge, replaced by a desperate, ragged plea. You have to stop this. Call whoever you need to call. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. We love Lily. We would never hurt her. This will ruin our family name. What will the neighbors say? What will my friends at the club say? I paused at the doorway, looking back at her. The sheer hypocrisy of her statement made me want to laugh, but I kept my composure. You didn't care about the family name when you were using my daughter as a prop to buy Chloe a following, Eleanor. You didn't care about Lily's feelings when she was begging you to stop. You only care now because the world is seeing you for exactly who you are. You don't understand. Chloe screamed, throwing her hands in the air. This channel was my life. I spent 3 years building this. I have brand contracts. I have bills to pay. You've completely destroyed my future. No, Chloe, I said firmly, my voice echoing off the tile walls. You destroyed your own future the second you decided that a child's dignity was a fair price to pay for internet fame. You thought you could exploit my daughter by midnight. Well, it's midnight now. Look at your screen. As if on cue, the digital clock on the microwave chimed, flashing 12 a.m. At that exact second, Chloe's laptop screen went completely blank, replaced by a harsh, gray system message. This account has been permanently suspended for violations of community guidelines regarding child safety and non-consensual content. Her channel was gone. 3 years of staged videos, bot followers, and desperate clout chasing erased in a single click. Her multi-channel network contract was instantly voided. Her brand sponsorships were dead. The digital platform she had built on a foundation of vanity and exploitation had vanished into the ether. Without another word, I turned my back on them. I walked down the quiet hallway, leaving behind the wreckage of their ambition. I stepped out of the front door into the cool midnight air. The silence of the night felt incredibly peaceful compared to the artificial glare and chaotic noise of that kitchen. I walked down the driveway and got into the front seat of my car. Lily was sitting in the passenger seat, wrapped in her favorite fleece blanket that I had kept in the back. She had stopped crying, but her small face looked incredibly pale in the moonlight. She looked down at her short, jagged hair, her fingers nervously twirling a short lock near her ear. "Mommy?" she asked softly, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and relief. "Are they going to make me go back there?" I reached over and pulled her into a tight, warm embrace, holding her close against my heart. "Never, baby. You are never going to that house again. I promise you, no one is ever going to use you or hurt you like that again. Mommy took care of it." "Is Aunt Chloe mad at us?" Lily whispered. "It doesn't matter if she's mad, sweetheart. What matters is that you are safe, and what they did was wrong. We are going home now." I started the engine and pulled away from the curb, leaving Eleanor's house behind in the rearview mirror. As we drove away, I saw the front door fly open. Eleanor stepped out onto the porch, staring frantically at her phone, likely receiving the first wave of frantic text messages from her local friends who had seen the exposure link. Her world was crashing down around her, and there was absolutely nothing she could do to stop the collapse. I drove through the quiet, empty streets of our town, feeling a profound sense of relief washing over me. The battle was over. The midnight deadline had passed. I hadn't used violence. I hadn't lowered myself to their petty level of screaming and fighting, but I had completely and systematically dismantled the threat to my child. By using the absolute truth, I had shut them down completely. The drive home was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the car engine and the rhythmic sound of the tires on the asphalt. Lily fell asleep against the window, exhausted from the intense emotional roller coaster of the evening. I kept one hand on the steering wheel, and the other gently resting on her shoulder. My mind was already moving to the next crucial step of this ordeal, David. David was still at his corporate dinner when all of this went down. He had no idea that while he was discussing quarterly projections and shaking hands with clients, his mother and sister were exploiting his daughter, and his wife was orchestrating a massive digital takedown. I knew that how David reacted to this news would decide the future of our marriage. If he chose to defend his mother and sister, if he chose their toxic loyalty over the safety and emotional well-being of his own daughter, our 10-year marriage would be over before sunrise. When we pulled into our driveway at 12:30, I saw David's car parked in its usual spot. The living room lights were on. As I carried a sleeping Lily into the house, David met me at the door, his face pale and his eyes wide with utter confusion and shock. He held his phone in his hand, which was flashing continuously with incoming calls from his mother. "Sarah, what on earth is going on?" David whispered frantically, trying not to wake Lily. "My mom has called me 15 times in the last 10 minutes. She's hysterical, crying that you stormed into her house, attacked Chloe, and destroyed Chloe's entire career. She says you've ruined their lives." "What happened?" I didn't say a word. I carried Lily upstairs, gently laid her in her bed, pulled the blankets up to her chin, and kissed her forehead. "You're safe now, sweetie. I whispered before quietly closing her bedroom door. I walked back down the stairs, my face completely calm, my posture rigid. David was standing at the bottom of the steps, pacing back and forth, his phone still buzzing in his hand. "David, turn your phone off and sit down," I said, my voice dropping into a low, serious register that immediately stopped him in his tracks. He had rarely heard me use that tone in our 10 years together. He saw the cold determination in my eyes, and for the first time tonight, he looked genuinely afraid. He sat down on the sofa, his phone trembling in his hand. "Sarah, please tell me what happened. Mom says you went crazy." "I am going to show you exactly what happened," I said. I pulled out my laptop, opened the folder containing the raw, unedited footage I had downloaded from Chloe's cloud account, and pressed play. I turned the screen toward him. For the next 20 minutes, David sat in absolute silence. He watched his sister and his mother sitting in Eleanor's kitchen, calculating how to make his 8-year-old daughter cry for higher click-through rates. He watched his mother hold Lily down, ignoring her desperate pleas of "No, please stop, Mommy said no." He watched Chloe smile directly at the lens, completely indifferent to her niece's trauma, celebrating the fact that the video was going to go viral. He watched the raw, ugly truth of the people he had spent his entire life defending. As the video played, I watched David's face change. It went from confusion to disbelief, then to deep, profound shock, and finally, to absolute horror and disgust. The color completely drained from his skin. By the time the video reached the point where Lily covered her face and wept over her ruined hair, David covered his mouth with his hand, a single tear of pure betrayal rolling down his cheek. The video ended. The room was deathly quiet. They did this," David whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "My own mother. My own sister. They used Lily. They hurt her on purpose, for views." "Yes," I said, standing before him. "They brought her there under the pretense of baking cookies. They violated our boundaries, they violated our daughter's bodily autonomy, and they turned her pain into a paid subscription tier. I gave them every chance over the years to respect our privacy, David. Tonight, they crossed a line that can never, ever be uncrossed." "Mom told me you ruined Chloe's career," David said, looking up at me, his eyes filled with absolute grief. "I did," I replied without a single shred of regret. "I called her sponsors and showed them the raw footage. I linked the unedited video to her live preview. Her channel has been permanently banned by the platform. Her career as an influencer is completely over. And I would do it again in a heartbeat to protect our child." David looked down at his phone, which was buzzing once again with Eleanor's name flashing on the screen. He stared at it for a long, heavy moment. This was the defining crossroads of his life. He was choosing between the toxic family he grew up with and the family he had built with me. He took a deep breath, swiped to decline the call, and then did something that made a massive weight lift off my shoulders. He opened his settings, selected his mother's contact, and hit block. Then he did the same for Chloe. He set the phone face down on the coffee table, stood up, and pulled me into a tight, fierce hug. His shoulders shook as he wept silently into my neck. "I am so sorry, Sarah," he choked out. "I am so sorry I didn't see who they really were. I am so sorry I didn't protect Lily from them. You did the right thing. You saved our daughter. I will never let them near our family again." In that moment, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. The revenge wasn't just about destroying Chloe's digital platform. It was about completely purging the toxic influence of Eleanor and Chloe from our lives forever. We were finally free. The next morning brought a different kind of reality. The digital implosion that had occurred at midnight didn't stay contained on the internet. It began to ripple through our actual, physical community. In a medium-sized town like ours, gossip travels faster than a wildfire, especially when it involves a prominent family like Eleanor's and a public scandal with video evidence. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the raw footage clips that I had linked to Chloe's channel had been downloaded and reposted on local community Facebook groups and neighborhood forums. The title of the posts was unmistakable: "Local influencer and mother exposed for exploiting child." I woke up early to make Lily breakfast. When she walked down the stairs, She was wearing a cute beanie hat to cover her uneven hair. She looked tired, but the terror from the night before had vanished from her eyes. She saw David sitting at the kitchen table, and she paused. David immediately stood up, walked over to her, and knelt down so he was at eye level with her. "Lily," David said, his voice thick with emotion, "I am so sorry for what happened last night. I promise you, Daddy is never going to let Grandma or Aunt Chloe hurt you or touch your hair ever again. We love you so much." Lily wrapped her small arms around David's neck. "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy saved me." After breakfast, David took Lily to a high-end, professional salon in the city. He had called ahead, explained the situation to a trusted stylist friend, and arranged for a private session where they could fix Lily's hair and turn the jagged cut into a beautiful, stylish pixie cut that she actually felt comfortable with. They spent the morning treating her like a princess, turning a traumatic memory into a day of pampering and love. While they were away, my phone started buzzing. It wasn't Eleanor or Chloe. They were blocked. It was Clara, the boutique owner. "Sarah, you won't believe the fallout," Clara said, her voice filled with a grim sense of satisfaction. "Chloe's multi-channel network issued a public statement this morning distancing themselves from her completely. They've dropped her from their roster. And that's not all. The local haircare company that sponsored her? They just released a press release stating they are horrified by her actions and are donating $5,000 to a children's mental health charity in our city to make amends." "What about Eleanor?" I asked. "Oh, Eleanor is completely ruined socially," Clara sighed. "Word got out to the country club board this morning. The members saw the video of her holding Lily down and telling her to stop being a spoiled sport. The board called an emergency meeting. They've asked Eleanor to resign her membership effective immediately to avoid dragging the club's reputation down. Her friends are deleting comments and unfriending her left and right. She's completely toxic now." I sat on my porch, listening to Clara, feeling a quiet sense of justice. Eleanor had spent her entire life chasing an illusion of perfection, using people as stepping stones to elevate her social status. Now that very obsession with status had become her prison. She couldn't leave her house without knowing that her neighbors, her former friends, and the members of her elite social circles knew exactly what kind of cruel, manipulative woman she was behind closed doors. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck pulled up to our house. The driver left a massive, expensive bouquet of flowers on the porch with a note attached. I walked out and picked up the envelope. The handwriting was Chloe's. The note read, "Sarah, please. I am losing everything. My channel is gone, my sponsors are suing me for breach of contract, and Mom won't stop crying. We are facing financial ruin from the legal fees. Please post a video saying it was all a staged prank. Please save us. We are family." I stared at the note, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no pity, no regret. They still didn't get it. Even now, facing the total collapse of their lives, they weren't apologizing for hurting Lily. They weren't sorry for the emotional trauma they inflicted on an 8-year-old child. They were only sorry that they got caught. They were only apologizing because their bank accounts and social standings were being affected. I walked over to our outdoor trash can, dropped the note and the flowers inside, and shut the lid. Family is not defined by blood. It is defined by respect, protection, and unconditional love. The moment Eleanor and Chloe decided to trade Lily's safety for digital clout, they ceased to be our family. They became predators, and my only job was to eliminate the threat. 2 weeks had passed since the midnight showdown. Life in our household had slowly returned to a peaceful, steady rhythm. Lily absolutely loved her new pixie cut. The professional stylist had done wonders, shaping it into a cute, confident style that made Lily feel like a superhero rather than a victim. She was laughing again, drawing again, and sleeping soundly through the night without any nightmares. But Eleanor and Chloe were still desperate. Since they couldn't reach us by phone, and because David had firmly rejected 2 certified letters sent by Eleanor's lawyers begging for a meeting, they decided to do something incredibly foolish. They decided to ambush us in public. It happened on a sunny Saturday afternoon. David, Lily, and I were walking out of a local ice cream parlor in the downtown shopping district. It was a busy day, with families walking up and down the sidewalks and outdoor cafes filled with people. As we stepped onto the sidewalk, a sharp, familiar voice cut through the air. David! David, please stop! We turned around. Walking toward us rapidly were Eleanor and Chloe. I almost didn't recognize them. The change in their appearance over just 2 weeks was staggering. The polished, elegant, perfectly styled facade was completely gone. Eleanor looked exhausted, her face drawn and wrinkled with stress, her expensive clothes looking slightly disheveled. Chloe looked even worse. She had dark circles under her eyes, no makeup, and her shoulders were slumped in a posture of complete defeat. She looked like a ghost of her former, vibrant influencer persona. David immediately stepped in front of Lily and me, his body forming a solid shield. Mom, Chloe, stay back, he said, his voice loud, firm, and completely devoid of any affection. I told you in our legal response to stay away from us. Do not come near my daughter. People on the sidewalk began to slow down, noticing the tension. A few patrons at the nearby outdoor cafe turned their heads to watch. Eleanor saw the audience and immediately tried to play the victim, her eyes welling up with dramatic, well-practiced tears. David, please, how can you be so cruel to your own mother? Eleanor sobbed, loud enough for the onlookers to hear. We made a mistake. It was just a silly misunderstanding. Your wife has completely destroyed Chloe's life. She's facing lawsuits, David. We can't even pay our mortgage this month because the sponsors are demanding their advance money back. You have to help us. We are your blood. Chloe stepped forward, her voice cracked and desperate. David, please tell Sarah to drop the public links. The raw footage is still circulating on archives. Every time someone Google searches my name, that video pops up. I can't even get a regular job interview at a retail store because managers see what happened. My life is ruined. I'm ruined at 24. I stepped out from behind David's shoulder. I looked at Chloe, then at Eleanor. The crowd around us was watching intently, whispering among themselves. Some of them recognized Chloe from the local news articles that had covered the viral scandal. You are not the victims here, Chloe, I said, my voice calm, clear, and perfectly audible to everyone standing on that street. 2 weeks ago, you sat in your kitchen and calculated how to exploit my 8-year-old daughter for views. You held her down while she cried. You told your audience her tears were good for your business. You didn't care about her life, her dignity, or her mental health. You only care about your own life now because your actions finally had real-world consequences. It was just a haircut. Eleanor shouted, her mask slipping as her anger broke through her fake tears. She's a child. She doesn't even know what dignity means. You are an uptight, vindictive snake who was always jealous of our success. The crowd gasped at Eleanor's outburst. The sheer malice and lack of remorse in her voice were completely undeniable. David didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and held it up, his finger hovering over the screen. Mom, if you don't turn around and walk away from my family right now, I am calling the police department to report public harassment, and I will use this exact interaction to secure a permanent restraining order against both of you. I have the raw video file saved on my phone, and I am more than happy to show the responding officers exactly why you are not allowed near my child. Eleanor opened her mouth to scream another insult, but Chloe caught her arm, pulling her back. Chloe looked around at the crowd of onlookers, who were staring at them with expressions of pure disgust and disapproval. She realized that trying to create a public scene was only making things worse. They were losing what little dignity they had left. Come on, Mom, Chloe whispered, her voice broken and hollow. Let's go. They aren't going to help us. It's over. With slumped shoulders and downcast eyes, Eleanor and Chloe turned around and walked away, disappearing into the crowd down the street. They walked away in total silence, completely defeated, knowing that their power over our family was gone forever. As I watched them walk away, I felt a deep, profound sense of closure. They had tried everything, digital exploitation, legal threats, and public ambush, but they had failed at every turn. They failed because they underestimated the power of a mother's love and the strength of a family built on true respect. We turned around, walked to our car, and drove away, leaving the final remnants of their toxicity behind in the dust. The weeks following the public confrontation on the street brought the final, official conclusions to the legal and financial nightmare Eleanor and Chloe had brought upon themselves. As it turned out, their actions had legal consequences that extended far beyond a suspended YouTube channel and social exclusion. The regional hair care company that had previously sponsored Chloe decided to take legal action. They filed a formal lawsuit against her for breach of contract and corporate defamation. In their filing, they argued that Chloe had used their brand name and logo in the preview materials for a video that actively depicted child exploitation and emotional abuse, thereby causing severe damage to their brand reputation. They demanded the full return of all advance payments, plus an additional $10,000 in damages. Because Chloe had already spent the advance money on expensive camera equipment, designer clothes, and lifestyle upgrades to look successful on camera, she had no savings to pay them back. Eleanor had to take out a second mortgage on her home, just to keep her daughter from facing complete financial bankruptcy and potential legal prosecution. The house that Eleanor had spent decades turning into a symbol of wealth and envy was now heavily burdened with debt, a permanent physical reminder of the price of her vanity. But inside our own home, the focus was completely different. We didn't care about their financial ruin or their legal battles. Our only focus was on rebuilding trust and ensuring Lily felt completely secure in her world. The emotional impact of a betrayal by family members can leave deep, invisible scars on a child. Lily had trusted her grandmother. She had trusted her aunt. Learning that the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally can turn into predators for something as hollow as internet views is a heavy burden for an 8-year-old mind to carry. We enrolled Lily in weekly sessions with a wonderful child therapist who specialized in family trauma. In those sessions, Lily learned that what happened to her wasn't her fault. She learned that she did nothing wrong by crying or trying to say no. Most importantly, she learned that her voice mattered, and that her parents would always, without exception, listen to her and protect her boundaries. David and I also spent those weeks focusing on our relationship. It wasn't easy for David to accept the complete destruction of his relationship with his mother and sister. He went through a period of deep grieving, not for the women they actually were, but for the mother and sister he wished they had been. I stood by him through that grief, offering him the same unwavering support he had shown me when he blocked them from his life. Our marriage, instead of fracturing under the pressure, grew incredibly strong. We became a unified front, a true team dedicated to the safety of our household. One evening, about a month after the incident, Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, drawing a picture of our family. She drew David, herself, and me standing outside our house under a bright blue sky. Her hair in the drawing was short and yellow, matching her new pixie cut. She looked up at me, her big brown eyes clear and bright. "Mommy, can I tell you something?" "Of course, baby," I said, sitting down next to her and smoothing her hair. "You can tell me anything." "I like my short hair now," she said softly, a genuine smile spreading across her face. At first, I was really sad because it felt like they took a piece of me away. But now I think it makes me look strong, like a warrior. A tear of pure, overwhelming emotion welled up in my eye, but I quickly baked it away, smiling back at her. "You are a warrior, Lily. You are the strongest, bravest little girl I know, and no one can ever take that away from you. And Mommy," she added, wrapping her small hand around mine. "Thank you for coming to get me that night. Thank you for shutting them down." Hearing those words from my daughter was the ultimate victory. It didn't matter that Chloe's channel was gone. It didn't matter that Eleanor was ostracized by her high society friends. It didn't matter that they were facing financial ruin. The only thing that truly mattered was that my daughter felt safe, loved, and empowered in her own skin. The revenge was complete, not because they had lost everything, but because we had saved what mattered most. As I sit here today, looking back on the chaotic events of that Tuesday night, I am struck by a profound sense of clarity. We live in a world that is increasingly obsessed with digital validation. We are surrounded by screens, metrics, likes, and subscriber counts. It has become dangerously easy for people to lose their way, to begin measuring their human worth by the numbers on a smartphone screen rather than the quality of their character and the depth of their real-world relationships. Chloe and Eleanor weren't born monsters. They were regular people who allowed themselves to be slowly, systematically corrupted by the intoxicating desire for internet fame and social envy. They fell into the dangerous trap of believing that if something isn't filmed, edited, and uploaded for public consumption, it doesn't have value. They began to view their family members not as human beings with feelings, hearts, and rights, but as content, raw material to be converted into engagement and profit. Their story is a powerful, cautionary tale about the true cost of vanity. They sacrificed a real, loving relationship with a beautiful granddaughter and niece for a temporary spike in view counts and digital pennies. And in the end, the very platform they worshiped turned into the furnace that consumed their names, their careers, and their peace of mind. They traded a lifetime of family trust for a midnight launch that ended in their total ruin. But the most important lesson I learned through this entire ordeal is about the true nature of maternal love and strength. For a long time, I believed that being a good mother meant avoiding conflict, keeping the peace, and swallowing my own discomfort to keep the family happy. I was wrong. True love is not passive. It is active, protective, and when necessary, fiercely defensive. When my daughter's safety and dignity were threatened, my silence didn't mean submission. It meant preparation. I didn't need to lower myself to their level of shouting, screaming, or physical conflict. I didn't need to use violence or malice. I simply used the absolute, unvarnished truth. The truth is the most powerful weapon in the world. When you shine a bright, honest light onto hidden cruelty, the darkness collapses all on its own. Our house is quiet now. There are no ring lights, no smartphones mounted on tripods recording our family dinners, and no strangers critiquing our lives in a live chat section. We have reclaimed our privacy, our peace, and our dignity. Lily is growing up beautiful, confident, and free. Every morning, we still have our little ritual. I gently style her short, beautiful pixie cut, and she tells me about her dreams for the day. There is no camera recording us, no internet audience waiting for a reveal. The moment belongs entirely to us, completely unedited, completely private, and completely pure. To anyone watching or listening to this story who might be dealing with toxic boundaries, manipulation, or betrayal from the people they call family, I want you to remember this. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the right to protect your children. Boundaries are not insults. They are the walls that keep your sanctuary safe. Never let anyone convince you that you are being dramatic or unreasonable for standing up for what is right. Trust your intuition. Protect your loved ones. And remember that sometimes the best way to deal with a toxic force in your life isn't to fight it with noise. It's to quietly, calmly, and completely shut it down by midnight.